All right. Welcome back to school, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy new quarter. Happy Monday. Happy, new decade, 2020. And welcome to the class. Stats 102A, Introduction to Computational Statistics with R. And my name is Miles Chen. I'll be your teacher for the quarter. And look forward to our time together. All right. Okay, so I'll post the syllabus up online, okay? And you can read through it at that time. It's not up there yet. And we'll look at some highlights from the syllabus. In fact, a lot of you guys have your computers open, and I'm not sure what you're looking at because these notes aren't up there, and the lecture slides aren't up there, okay? I think in general, I would prefer, you can bring your laptops to class, but in general, I would prefer you just kind of pay attention, focus on what's on the screen. And then, only when I say explicitly try this out in code, I kind of want you on the laptops, right? If you're out on the internet reading something or browsing, shopping or something, it's hard to learn, right? So anyway, right now none of this stuff's up online, so you don't really need your computers out. But we'll take a look here, okay? Some of these people didn't even get that message there. Okay. So my email address is mileschen@stat.ucla.edu. Sometimes you'll see my email address with a dot in there, miles.chen@stat.ucla.edu. That also gets to me. Sometimes I send from my Gmail account, mileschen@gmail. That also gets to me, okay? Most of your email messages I get. So occasionally they end up in my spam folder, but I check that frequently. And so usually I get all of your email messages, but I do take a long time to respond. So I probably did get them. Okay, we'll have office hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday, basically after this class. If that doesn't work out for you, you can set up an appointment or just swing by my office at some time, okay? In your emails or in person, you can call me Miles, all right? You're allowed to do that. Sorry. We'll just make you suffer the embarrassment here. Okay. So anyway, what I was saying. So you can call me Miles. If that's uncomfortable for you, you can call me Professor Chen or Dr. Chen or something, okay? Just don't start your emails off with hello, okay, without a name. And then I also prefer not to just be called Chen, okay? So Miles or, Professor Chen or whatever, okay? That's fine, okay. Grades will be broken down this way. 36% homework. We'll have 6 assignments, 6% each. None of them are dropped, okay? You'll have quizzes in your discussion section. That's worth a total of 5%, okay? And I'll talk about that because you'll have one tomorrow, all right? We've got a midterm exam, 20%, final exam, 30%, okay? We'll have Campus Wire, and you'll get 3% for participating, and I'll have that all detailed out in the syllabus. Basically, the more you participate, the more you'll get, okay? We'll also have class attendance. That's also going to be detailed in the syllabus. I'll talk about that later as well, 3%. I didn't want to make Campus Wire participation like 5% or 6%. I didn't want to make attendance 5% or 6% or something. So I kept those at 3%. That left 3% left over. So I'm giving you guys free points, okay, for being awesome. Everybody gets at least those 3 percentage points, okay? So you get that, okay? I don't curve, okay? Grades are assigned on a straight scale based on this. You guys are not competing against each other, okay? You don't feel like in order for you to get an A, somebody else has to get a C or a B or something like that. This is what we do. The only grade based on relative performance is A+, okay? And that doesn't really matter, all right? It's just like feel good about yourself. You did better than the other students. Go for you, good for you, okay? But that's that. I see it as my responsibility to write exams that are of appropriate difficulty and whatnot, okay? If something goes wrong in my writing in an exam, I can make adjustments as needed. But generally my adjustments for an exam, I just add points straight up. So even if you did well, you'll get the points, and even if you did poorly, you'll get the points. So, but that's how we'll do. Okay. As far as homeworks go, they're generally due at 6 p.m. and there's a 10-minute grace period. So if you get it in by 6:10, then you won't get penalty. But 6:11, you'll get a penalty. Okay. And don't tell me you missed the grace period by 1 minute. I'll say you're 11 minutes late. Okay. After that, you get, for each hour it's late, you get a 5-point deduction, but they stop at midnight. So basically, each 7 p.m. or 6:11, it's 5 points. 7 p.m. it's 10 points, and so on and so forth until midnight. At which point you're at 30 points deduction. Okay. And then they stop, and then they resume 6 p.m. the following day. Okay, so basically after 2 days, 1 day late is 30 points off, 2 days late, 60 points off. If something happens, okay, and I get that, life happens, we'll give you 72 hours if you include any kind of documentation with your thing, right? So you got sick, you go see the doctor, you'll get 3 days additional days to turn in your homework. You don't need to email me, just submit that documentation with your homework. The grader will see that, and we'll balance your late penalty accordingly, okay? If you need something, if something happens and you need more than 3 days, okay, come see me in person. Usually I'm pretty reasonable, and we'll go from there, okay? Any questions on that? All right, okay, so quizzes. You're gonna take a quiz and discussion section. So tomorrow you'll have a quiz. I'm not even gonna cover like new material today. Tomorrow's quiz will mostly be a review from Stats 20 stuff, okay? And that's actually gonna be kind of the first couple weeks of the class. But here's the thing about the quizzes. They're for your learning, okay? You show up, you take the quiz, you're gonna get 100%. Even if you get all the questions wrong, okay? We'll give you 100% for coming and taking the quiz, okay? We're going to gather them, we'll write down your names in the grade book, give you the points, okay? And then after we gather them, we're going to give you blank quizzes, okay? And then the TA will go over the answers, and you can use those blank quizzes to study from and whatnot, okay? They're there for your learning, but you do have to go to discussion section. You do have to kind of be there and listen to the answers and stuff, okay? Everyone gets 1 free missed quiz. No questions asked, no documentation needed, okay? And then after that, no makeup quizzes, okay? It's an attendance quiz. There's nothing to make up, okay? We'll grant up to 2 additional exceptions if you have documentation for those. And beyond that, I got to draw the line somewhere. You can't just keep saying, like, I have work every single week, okay? You shouldn't have taken that discussion section, all right? So additional exceptions, up to 2 more after that. Even with documentation, I'm not going to give you things there. Okay. And anyway, the quizzes are worth 5 percentage points total. All right. So you miss a quiz and you lose points. If there's, you figure like 0.5 percentage points total. Okay. Not a big deal. Okay. Okay. So when you come to office hours, I've got a lot of students, all right? Please introduce yourself every single time, okay? I know it feels weird, right? But just say, hi, Miles, I'm Joe Bruin, and that's gonna help me out, right? Until I start calling you and say, oh, hey, Joe, good to see you. Just introduce yourself, okay? I like when students come to office hours. I'm happy to answer questions about material. I'm happy to provide homework guidance, okay? I'm not gonna straight up tell you the answer to the homework, but I'm happy to provide guidance. I'm happy to, if you've got questions about grad school, questions about, you're got to prepare for an interview or something, you got questions like that, I'm happy to talk about that, okay? The only office hour visits I don't like is when I get in fights with students about points, okay? Or they're like, I lost 5 points on this problem. I think I should have only lost 3 points or something. Okay, these are like my least favorite conversations because I have to explain to you or something, right? If we make a mistake, right? Like we take off points and the answer is correct, okay? And like sometimes we make mistakes, yeah. Feel free and just say, hey, I think you made a mistake taking off points here. I'm happy to correct that, okay? Or maybe I'll say, oh, you know what? This is why it's a mistake and this is why you lost the points. That's fine, okay? But I don't like getting into discussions about whether your point deduction should be 5 points or 10 points or something, right? There's like memes about let me talk to the manager, okay? That's what these discussions feel like, right? It feels like you want to talk to the manager, I don't know, okay, about something. It's not my favorite. Don't be that person, okay? I get it. It's part of the job, okay? As manager, you got to deal with the people who want to talk to the manager, and as professor, you got to sometimes deal with students like this. But I'm just telling you, not my favorite. Okay. All right. Sometimes it takes a little while for me to respond to emails. Okay. If you want a faster response, the best is just come to office hours. Okay. I can't ignore you if you're standing in office hours, right? It's a lot easier to ignore an email. It's harder to ignore a person. So if you want a faster response, just come talk to me in person, okay? And I'm happy to deal with that. Okay. Any questions before I talk about what the class is about? No, we're good. All right. Okay. Great. Okay. So what is the class about? All right. I say it's Foundations for Data Science. I imagine most of you chose statistics as a major or chose these classes so because you're hoping or aspiring for a career in data science or data analytics or something related to data, okay? Because that's pretty much what statistics is all about these days, data, working with data. And so this man, Drew Conway, he created this Venn diagram called the Data Science Venn diagram. He said it consists of coding skills. He uses hacking skills, and math and stats knowledge, and domain expertise. And this is what the Venn diagram looks like, right? And so in the stats major, the core series, the Stats 100 series, which is all about theoretical, the math stuff, probability, and the mathematical statistics and linear models, all of that falls under your math and stats knowledge, okay? I would say Stats 101A, regression, and 101B, your ANOVA, design of experiments, also falls in math and stats knowledge, okay? The 102 series and 101C, I would say falls in kind of a blend of the coding skills and the math stats knowledge, right? And then Stats 20 will be just kind of purely coding skills, okay? And so this class, 102A and 102B, 102C, the entire 102 series falls kind of in a blend of the hacking skills or coding skills, math stats knowledge, which might fall under, some might say machine learning. Machine learning is a little bit more and different than that, but and if you combine that with substantive expertise, then you've got data science, okay? The statistics major cannot provide the substantive expertise. What that is basically the knowledge of the subject about that the data is coming from, right? So if you're gonna deal with like breast cancer patient data, okay? If you're gonna deal with breast cancer patient data, should know about breast cancer, okay? You should have some medical knowledge and understand kind of the implications of what certain measurements mean as far as the implications for breast cancer, okay? You should have some oncology data or oncology knowledge. If you're gonna deal with business data, you should have taken some courses on business and understand kind of the implications of certain figures and numbers and what's big and what's small, right? If you're going to deal with baseball data, you should know about the game of baseball, right? If you don't know anything about baseball and someone throws baseball data at you, you're going to be terrible at the analysis. It doesn't matter how good your coding and math and stats knowledge is. If you don't know anything about baseball, you don't even know the first thing to do about approaching the data set, right? So for example, for baseball, you would recognize that most batting averages are somewhere between 0.2 and 0.33, something around there, like 330, I don't know, if you're really good, maybe 340 or something like that, 0.340. And so if in your data set you get a batting average of 0.875, you know that something is wrong, right? Like either this person only went to bat like 8 times total or something just very weird happened, right? But if you know nothing about batting average, maybe this past conversation made absolutely no sense to you, and you wouldn't have any idea, and you wouldn't recognize that these data points don't make any sense and we shouldn't include them in our data analysis, right? And so you need to have substantive expertise. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to pick a random data set on Kaggle about the subject of which I know nothing about, and I'm going to do a data analysis, okay? There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of junky stuff on Kaggle. And if you know nothing about the subject, you're probably going to end up in a junky analysis, okay? But we can't give that to you, right? This is the stats major. We can't tell you like, okay, now we're going to cover everything else about the world, okay? It's up to you to learn about the exact area that you want to apply it to, right? And that usually aligns with whatever you're interested in, okay? All right, so this class, Introduction to the Field of Computational Statistics and Data Science, it's titled Computational Statistics because the class was designed and named decades ago, okay? This UCLA Statistics Department saw from the very beginning that coding and computer skills were going to be very important for analyzing data, okay? And so from the very start, there's always been the 102 series, which has always been kind of the interaction of computer code and data and stuff like that. And only 10 years ago, about 2009 or so, this term data science evolved, okay? We haven't renamed our courses, okay? But this idea of computational statistics lines up very closely with data science, all right? And so, so that's what we've got, okay? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna further develop your coding skills. You guys all took Stats 20, all right? And that might have been last quarter, that might have been a couple years ago. But we're going to take that and push you farther with your coding skills. And then after we advance your programming coding skills, then we'll introduce some more of the methods of computational statistics, okay? So this is what we'll cover in the first few weeks. So the first couple weeks will be review of Stats 20, like that. And then we've got web scraping, reshaping your data, manipulating your data with dplyr, the package. We'll look at regular expressions, object-oriented programming, visualization with ggplot, things like that, okay? And this stuff is constantly changing because the packages and stuff is always developing, all right? So a few years from now, probably some of these things will be different, okay, as the packages evolve, okay? But then as far as the methods go, we'll look at some of these foundational methods. We'll look at floating point arithmetic, which, I don't know how familiar you are, but there's some interesting consequences of doing math on the computer rather than dealing with real numbers, okay? We've got root finding and numeric optimization, bootstraps, randomization tests, stuff like that, okay? You can think of this kind of as like a coding 2 class. That's something I just made up, okay? It's not, okay? But at UCLA, in order to graduate, you have to take a writing 1 and a writing 2, right? And when you take the writing 2 class, you have to write a lot, right? You got to write like an essay every week or something, or at least a 15-page paper is what they say, right? That's what the thing says. And UCLA says this is important because writing is essential to thinking and learning. That's true. Clear, concise writing is a key strength for an academic career, also true. And students who write well can lead expressive lives and create powerful communications about their ideas and opinions. Also true, okay? So I kind of adapted this and I said, all right, you can think of this as a coding 2 class, which means as far as your homework assignments go, there's going to be a decent amount of coding, okay? I don't want anybody to be surprised that you have to code in this class, okay? And I say, coding is essential to interacting with and learning from data, and the ability to write clear, readable code is going to be a key strength for a data-related career, okay? And if you can code well, you can create powerful tools and implement their ideas and solutions and things like that. And so that's the point of this, okay? We want you to develop your code writing skills in the class, okay? And so that brings me to my next thing, which is on academic integrity and plagiarism, okay? And, so I just want to say a few things first, okay? There's a lot of high-quality code that does exactly what you need to do. It's available out there on the internet. A lot of it's are in packages, ready to install. A lot of it's on stuff like Stack Exchange and GitHub, okay? There's a lot of high-quality stuff. If your goal is to get a task done, you're trying to accomplish some kind of task, okay? You should just use those packages or the readily available solutions, okay? Because they are there to help you get your task done, okay? But the goal of this class is not for you to get a task done, okay? The goal of this class for you as the student is to get you to become better code writers. We want to get you to be better coders, learn how to code, become better writers of code, all right? And so that's why things are different in this class, right? So, if you go to the gym, if you lift weights, there's this phrase, no pain, no gain, right? Lifting weights at the gym, the goal of lifting weights at the gym is not so that the weights get lifted, okay? The goal of lifting weights at the gym is so that the person lifting weights gains strength, right? Right? And the phrase no pain, no gain is kind of the idea that if your weight training doesn't result in muscle soreness, you probably didn't exert enough effort to expect muscle gain, okay? And experiencing muscle soreness is a sign that your muscles will go through repairs and get stronger, all right? And I think everybody understands this, okay? Same idea happens in your brain, okay? If your brain doesn't struggle at all when writing code, okay, then it has no need to go back and form new connections, no neuron connections that are going to improve your abilities as a coder, right? When you struggle, okay, when you struggle when writing code, your brain goes, oh man, this is hard, and I had to pass neurons like this. Now, it's going to be easier if I make a new connection, right? And this is how our brain learns stuff, right? We make new connections between our neurons, and we're able to improve abilities, right? And if you think back to your elementary school, middle school, high school career, right? Like when you were first learning algebra and learning how to kind of factor, a quadratic equation or something, or a quadratic polynomial, that might have been hard for you, okay? Because it was new and your brain had to learn it and it had to form those connections, right? But at this point now, you look back and it's really easy, okay? And the same idea is here, right? We're going to be introducing new concepts of code that are going to be hard. Your brain, when you look at it and you struggle through it, your brain's going to say, man, this is hard. But then because it's hard, when you go to sleep that night, your brain's going to say, all right, we got to make some new connections. And by making new connections, you become stronger, you become a better coder, and then years from now, if you continue writing code, you're going to be a much stronger coder, okay? And so this is the problem with plagiarizing, right? So if you plagiarize code for a difficult assignment, it's the same thing as going to the gym and saying, man, these weights are too heavy for me to lift. Hey, you over there, can you lift these weights for me, okay? And that's fine and all if the goal of lifting weights was to get the weights lifted, okay? But the goal of lifting weights is not to have the weights lifted, but rather to gain strength, okay? And in the same way, if you look at someone else's code, then you have robbed your brain of that time of struggle that's going to force it to form new connections and new neuron connections and improve your skills as a coder, right? So you're not going to gain strength if someone else lifts the weights for you at the gym, and you're not going to become a better coder if you just copy and paste someone else's code and modify it to fit your needs, right? Copying, pasting, and modifying, that's a much lower skill level that doesn't require your brain to struggle, okay? So your brain's not going to form new connections when you just copy, paste, and modify, right? When you struggle through and say, I got to think through the solution, and you struggle through it, then your brain will say, okay, we got to make new connections. I got to become a better coder that way, okay? I'm not saying people who plagiarize are like evil people, okay? I'm not like some vindictive person or something. We do take cases of plagiarism seriously, but I think it's just that the students have confused the goals of the course, right? I think people who plagiarize believe that the goal for them is to get a good grade, okay? or avoid a bad grade, right? And the goal of learning is secondary, right? But that's wrong. Your primary goal of this course, I hope for each of you, is to learn and become better coders. And I admit, okay, there's a major conflict here in that at the end of the course, I have to provide a grade, okay? And the problem is I cannot create individual grading schemas and say like, oh, you came in with this knowledge and you learned this much, and therefore you get an A grade, and you came in with this much and you learned, I can't create individualized plans. It's not like I can be a personal trainer for each of you. And also that probably just wouldn't work. A lot of you would say that's unfair, that everyone came in with different skills and so get graded on different criteria. So we do have to use some uniform grading criteria. And that does mean, some of you will get higher grades and some of you will get lower grades. But I hope for each of you, regardless of your final grade in the class, you can look and say, I did well in this course because I learned a lot. Even though my final grade isn't as high as this other person's, because I see that I myself learned a lot in this course, I see this as I was successful, okay? And I know that's a big shift for a lot of you, okay? Because I imagine a lot of you have similar stories to me in that, like, in high school, some of your classes were super easy. You didn't have to try hard at all. You hardly exercised your brain at all, and you got an A, and it felt good. But I don't know if that's necessarily the best, right? So anyway, this is what I expect of you. If you face a challenging assignment, I expect you to work hard, and I expect you not to seek out solutions online or view someone else's code. And if you're not able to complete everything by the deadline, I want you to turn in what you have, even though it's not 100% complete, and accept a grade that's less than 100%, okay? And that, again, might feel awkward and strange for some of you, but if you say, well, this was the best of my abilities at this point in time, then that's great, okay? It's not a failure of your coding abilities or who you are. It's just, this is, you can get better as far as certain things, okay? The goal is not that you have your assignment written. The goal is for you to learn, right? So like in one of your assignments, I'm going to have you code a game, okay? And it's not like I'm not going to take your game and then try to play it and have fun with it, okay? Like the point of you writing the game is because it's a good exercise that presents a lot of enough complicated ideas that it forces your brain to think through the challenge, and it's for you to learn from that challenge, okay? If you think the goal is to get a game that runs, I should just spend $1.99 on Google Play and I'll get a game that runs great, okay? That's not what I want, okay? Our assignments, we'll use a collaboration policy that I'm basing off of the Stats 20 collaboration policy. Most of it is basically you are allowed to collaborate verbally, but you are not allowed to look or show each other your code, okay? You can draw pictures like flowcharts and stuff like that, okay? And you can talk about your homework verbally, but you can't show each other your code, right? So it's a little silly, but if someone says, how'd you approach problem 2? You can say, this is what I did. I created a for loop. In each iteration, I subset the vector, and then I sorted them, or whatever, and then I assigned them to this output object and things like that. There's a lot you can communicate verbally, right? And that also forces another part of your brain to operate, the part that takes code and conveys those concepts verbally, all right? And then it also exercises the part where you hear words and you turn them into code concepts. That's also an important part of communication. And then, just say, so-and-so, we talked together about our ideas, and this is maybe why our structures are similar. But of course, the code themselves that you've written should be very different, right? If you say, okay, well, let me show you what I did, and then you show your screen, okay, that's a violation, right? If someone says, can I double check my work? You're like, how'd you do this? Can I see how you did this, right? You have to say, I can't show you my code, but I can tell you what I did, right? If you just show them what you did, that's no good, right? Or if you can, can you help me figure out what I'm doing wrong? Okay, I got a bug, I can't figure it out. It keeps saying this thing, right? You can say, I can't look at your code, but did you make sure you're doing this? Or this error often means you have a missing value, an NA, somewhere inside an if statement. So check all of your if statements and stuff like that, right? If you say, all right, well, let me look at your code, that's a problem, okay? And again, this is here so to help you learn, right? Because as soon as you look at someone else's code or you allow someone to look at your code, you're losing or you're taking away an opportunity for kind of the brain to form these things. You're basically lifting the weights for them, and that's not the point. We're not here in the class so that the weights get lifted. I don't care if the game works or not. I want you to learn. Okay. And of course, it is a coding class, so you are allowed to talk and show code as long as it's not part of an assignment, right? So if you got questions about any of, like I'm going to have code in my slides, you got questions about any of those things, you can present that code and show that code to each other, right? You're encouraged to take any of my examples and then make small modifications and see what effect those modifications have, right? Like what happens if you change, I don't know, one of the values to something else? What's going to happen there, okay? I want that, okay? So, as long as it's not an assignment, please do that, right? Okay, so, I don't know, are there questions on any of this? Code collaboration? All right, so I want to talk about grades and life, okay? And I know this is, because, going back here, as far as students who plagiarize, I think what has happened is not that the students are like these malicious or evil people. Just they've confused the goals of the course, right? The goal of getting a good grade or desired grade has become primary compared to the goal of learning, right? And I think part of that stems from maybe placing just too much value on grades, and so This first thing that I write is your grades do not define you, right? And you've probably heard this before. And I understand that it's a hard concept because I was, as a student, I saw grades as a way, as something that defined me, right? And I had to change that mindset, right? So, you are here at UCLA. And the reason why you're here at UCLA is because somewhere in the past, you got good grades, right? You don't get into UCLA if you had bad grades. So either in high school you had good grades and you were like #1 student at your high school, or at least in the top 5%. Or in community college, you got really good grades and so you transferred here, or wherever you were, you had good grades somewhere and that's why you're here, okay? And it's such a privilege and joy to really teach here at UCLA. I've taught at other places, and this is like the best school, best campus. We've got the best students, okay? And but if I can give you something, I want you to break this. If this is how you feel, that your grades define you, your grades do not define you, right? And it feels good to get good grades, okay? And it's true, grades do play a role in graduate school admissions, and so if you're thinking of grad school, grades play a role, but it's probably not as important as you think, okay? Grad school looks at a lot more than just your grades, whereas I think undergrad admissions, grades play a bigger role, okay? But still, they're not the most important thing in life. No one looks back on their deathbed saying like, oh man, I can't believe I got a B+ instead of an A- or something, right? All right, I think we've got time for story time. So I'll tell you, so in high school, I worked hard and I got really good grades, okay? And in high school, it was my dream to go to Caltech, okay? And my senior year, I got into Caltech and I thought, yes, my hard work has paid off, okay? And so freshman year, I go to Caltech, I start there, all right? And boom, the whole like freshman Caltech's on quarter system also. Like my whole academic career has been quarter system, so I get it. First midterm, they hit me, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so my fall quarter, I got like my first C ever, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then winter quarter, my grades went down. Okay, I got like my first D ever, and then spring quarter, I got a bunch of Fs, and this had never happened, right? And like my mental health is in shambles. I'm like depressed. And it was because I had tied my identity to my grades, okay? Like in high school, I did well. I thought, man, I'm awesome because look at me, I get good grades, right? And I don't have as much of a social life as these other people, but I take comfort in my grades. And this was how I saw myself. And then, so my freshman year, you take away my grades, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I have left? And I was depressed. And we look back and I'm laughing, but it was hard at the time, and it was heartbreaking. And thankfully my parents were very supportive, and basically they gave me permission to drop out of school. And that was a tough decision, but I dropped out of Caltech. It was like it was sad for me, and I had to let go of that dream. And I transferred to another school in Michigan, and I completed my bachelor's degree there. I did much better, but that tough experience forced me to break my relationship with grades. That I wasn't idolizing this thing and drawing my value from the grades, but I recognized that who I am as a person is separate from my grades, and that had to happen. I'm not wishing for any of you to drop out of school, but that was something that had to happen to me to break my unhealthy relationship with grades, and you know what? Things turned out okay, right? At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, what was I gonna do? Because I tried, when I realized I was gonna drop out of Caltech, I tried applying to other schools. I was like, maybe I can go to UC Santa Barbara or something like that, right? Because I had gotten in as a freshman for UC Santa Barbara, and I was like, okay, maybe they'll take me as a transfer, but they didn't. They said no. So I ended up having to go to this school in this tiny little engineering school in Michigan, and so anyway, that's what happened. And then anyway, long story short, here I am. I'm teaching. I've got my dream job teaching here at UCLA. Things worked out. It wasn't the end all that I thought it was going to be, and now I have a much healthier perspective on grades. And the truth is once you are working, no one cares about your grades once you're working. Okay, and I know that when you're in school, it feels like a big deal. Okay, because I felt it. I felt it too. All right. And so I want to talk about work-life balance, all right? And because people often ask, what is work-life balance, and how does this work? How do we achieve work-life balance? And we all have 24 hours in a day, and I say we can split our time and energies into kind of these three primary categories, right? We've got work, and then the life part is going to be relationships and self, okay? So work includes things like your job and internships, okay? Also your school and your academics and any other professional obligations, like you're part of a club or something. I would throw all of that into work, okay? Relationships, you've got family, you have friends, maybe a romantic partner, okay? Other social obligations that you're part of, also clubs and things like that, okay? And then as far as self goes, you got care of your physical self, food, sleep, exercise, care of your mental health, sleep, play, entertainment, and care of your spiritual health if you're spiritual or religious, okay? And the fact that you only have 24 hours in a day means it is not possible to give 100% to all of these categories, okay? And we have to make choices, right? So work-life balance is achieved by consciously choosing what's important to you and devoting your time and energies accordingly. And in general, the more you put in to one thing, the more you're going to get out of that thing. All right? And you can find satisfaction in life, okay? It's a satisfactory work-life balance by accepting the natural consequences of what you've chosen to deprioritize. Okay? When you say, I'm putting less time into this, and that means these are the natural consequences of that, and if you can accept and embrace that, you can find satisfaction, all right? So, so for example, let's just talk about relationships, right? I've divided that into family, friends, and a romantic partner, all right? And so let's say you're part of a group of friends. Right now, you spend a lot of time with them, and then one day you get involved with a romantic partner, okay? And so now you're devoting a lot of your, or almost all of your relationship time into the romantic partner and very little time with your original group of friends, okay? So what's gonna happen is your romantic relationship will probably blossom and grow, and you will benefit from that, okay? But the fact that you are now spending a lot less time with your original friends means you're gonna just end up more distant with your original group of friends, right? And there's just like movies about this kind of stuff, and when you recognize that distance is forming between you and your original group of friends, it might feel hostile to you. You'd be like, I can't believe they went and saw that movie without me, right? Okay? And you might feel like they're like jealous of you or something, but no, that's not what's going on. It's just a natural consequence of you spending less time, right? You used to spend 2 hours a day with your group of friends, and now you spend, 20 minutes total a week? Okay, yeah. Naturally, you can't expect the same level of closeness that you had before. And that's just a natural consequence. No one's out necessarily out to get you, okay? But you have to say, well, yeah, I've made this choice. My romantic relationship is more important to me, and so I accept the distance that's forming with my original group of friends. There's no bad blood, just we're not as close as we used to be. And that just happens. That's life. And if you can embrace that, you can walk away without any bitterness or anger or anything like that. You can be satisfied with what you have in life. Same thing with the professional world, okay? As a company, companies reward people who put more into the company, okay? So imagine there's two people, right? Both of them do exactly everything that has been asked of them, okay? And one person, as soon as they're done doing everything that's been asked of them, they immediately leave work, go home to their family, friends, relationships, things like that. The other person, they do everything that's been asked of them. They have nowhere to go. They stay at the company. They do even more stuff that's beneficial for the company, okay? Who's the company going to reward? They're going to reward the one that stayed longer at the company, okay, and did even more beneficial things for the company, okay? And if you're the one who's choosing to leave work to spend time with family and friends, you can't be angry that they're rewarding the person that doesn't have a life outside of work, okay? That's just a natural thing that's going to happen, right? And you have to choose. Maybe you want to be the person who climbs the corporate ladder quickly, okay? So that might mean giving up things like friendships and relationships and stuff like that so that you have more time to devote to the company. It's not that the company's like punishing people who have families. It's just they can get more out of the person who doesn't, okay? And of course, everyone's generally working towards their own self-interest, and same with the companies. They're going to reward people who spend all day at the company. That's why places like Google and Facebook have campuses that basically can keep the person on campus at all times, right? They got a campus where they have the cafeteria and the restaurant and the place where you can take a nap, because guess what? They can keep you at work all day, and they can get more out of you, all right? And if you want that, you can succeed. But if you say, well, no, this is not what I want, you probably won't flourish as much in an environment like that. So that's just a natural thing that's going to happen. And just you have to recognize these are the consequences of how you've chosen to prioritize and deprioritize your time. And be happy with those choices, okay? And so lastly, self-care is important, okay? And the reason why self-care is important is because if you neglect self-care, what happens is the time you spend for these other things will be operating at less than 100% efficiency, right? So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be as efficient or even fun to be around, right? So you say, well, I want to hang out with my friends instead of sleep. You might be a drag to hang out with, okay, if you're not getting enough sleep, right? Or if you don't eat and if you skip meals and don't sleep, you're probably going to get sick, okay? And if you're sick, you're not going to perform as well on exams and stuff. So in those cases, maybe it would have been better if you just didn't study and got the sleep instead, okay? Because not sleeping ended up and studying instead led to you to getting sick and you not doing as well either. So when I say something like your mental health is important, okay, because I'm going to say that a lot, what I'm saying is I want you to choose to invest your time into activities like sleep and relaxation that will boost your mental health, okay? Because we're, college campuses across the country are facing this mental health epidemic. People have more depression and anxiety than ever before, and I think we're neglecting self-care, all right? We got to get sleep, and we've got to value grades less. And so what I'm saying is I want you to sleep more and relax more, and sometimes, okay, and this is the key, sometimes that means not completing your homework to 100%, okay? And that's a choice you have to make. You have to say, right now, in order to get the sleep I need to stay healthy, I'm not going to finish this homework assignment to 100%, okay? And the natural consequence is that you're not going to get a 100% grade on your homework, okay? And I want you to be okay with that, and I want you to be happy with decisions like that and be able to, to have the strength to make that decision and say, I'm not beholden to my grades. I can make my own decisions and operate this way. And prioritize your mental health, prioritize your self-care, and you can get through life without bitterness, more joy, better mental health. It's going to be a lot better. And so anyway, I start off the quarter with this lecture. I don't actually cover any stuff today. On Wednesday, we'll start covering R programming and things like that. You'll have a quiz going over kind of Stats 20, R material tomorrow. Make sure you go to that. I'm looking forward to a great quarter with you guys, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.